everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Seun Okinbaloye here in Abuja. Tonight, let's begin by letting you know that President Bola Tinubu is in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil to attend the 19th Heads of State and Government Summit of the group of G20 of the 20, slated for November 18 and 19. According to his statement by the presidency today, the president was received by Ambassador Brenda Coster of the Ministry of External Relations of Brazil. And President Tinubu was accompanied by Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Idi Maya, Minister of Livestock Development, the Minister of Art, Tourism, Culture, and Creativity, Ms. Hannatu Musawa, amongst several other senior members of the Bola Tinubu's cabinet. There's a lot to talk about in the state of the nation, especially communications under the President Bola Tinubu administration. Tonight, we'll be getting to know what are the agenda, what are the issues, what are the focus on getting the nation to work. Is it just beyond or just about the issues of messaging the president's heart or mind to Nigerians? And beyond that, perhaps a former spokesperson to a political foe has now become the spokesperson of the president to what has become a major conversation within and outside the All Progressives Congress, APC, and within the presidency. I will be speaking with Daniel Bwala, who has just resumed duty as a special advisor on public communications and media to President Bola Tinubu. But before we get talking, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
President Bola Tinubu has arrived at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, to attend the 19th Heads of State and Government Summit of the Group of 20. The president was received by Ambassador Breno Costa of the Ministry of External Relations of Brazil. President Tinubu was accompanied by Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Idi Maiha, Minister of Livestock Development, and Hannatu Musawa, Minister of Art, Tourism, Culture, and Creativity. President Tinubu is also expected to hold bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the summit in advancement of Nigeria's socio-economic reforms. Vice President Kashim Shettima says the government of President Bola Tinubu remains steadfast in ensuring inclusivity and equity for all Nigerians by prioritizing people-centered policies and programs. He stated this at the launch of the Grand Challenges Nigeria project, which is aimed at driving innovation for a sustainable future for Nigerians. A federal lawmaker, Honorable Suleiman Gumi, is advising politicians not to distance themselves from their people. The lawmaker, who is representing Gumi Bukuyum Federal Constituency of Zamfara State, specifically tasked them not only to be kind, but also just to their constituents while carrying out their official engagements. He spoke on the sidelines of his defection from the People's Democratic Party to the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. He was joined by his constituents, loyalists, friends, and associates in a rally. The 20 local government chairmen elected under the All Progressives Congress in Ogun State have been sworn in to man the affairs of the third tier of government for the next 3 years. At the ceremony, which was held at the Cultural Center in Abeokuta, the state capital, Governor Dakpo Abiodun charged them on probity, transparency, accountability, and fairness. The governor of Abia State has threatened to deal with sponsors of violence and insecurity following a series of violent events recorded in the state recently. A statement by the special advisor to the governor, media and publicity, Ferdinand Ekoma, today says the decision followed a series of tip-offs from patriotic citizens and reliable intelligence. This is coming as unidentified gunmen reportedly killed 2 soldiers attached to the Joint Task Force Southeast Operation, Udoka, along the Umuahia Owerri Road in Umuahia South local government area of the state.
Thank you, everyone, for staying with us. Let's tell you that Mr. Daniel Bwala, Special Advisor on Public Communications and Media to President Bola Tinubu, today has resumed duties at the presidential villa and is spoken on the backlash that trailed his appointment. He had an interaction with State House correspondent. Mr. Bwala has been explaining some of the reasons behind some of his statement and some of the claims that he made when he was speaking for Mr. Atiku of the PDP and the presidential candidate of the PDP in the 2023 election. Let me allow you to listen to some of what he said today at the presidential villa.
I have joined pool of very wonderful, resourceful media aid of the president, and we work as a team, and we will ensure that in communicating on behalf of the president to the Nigerian people, we do our best in the discharge of our function. We're going to be honest with you. Government is not perfect. Government is a work in progress. What government does consistently is to communicate to the people, not just the intention of government, but the effort of government in delivering on the promise to the Nigerian people. So you're going to find in the course of our work, there are times government will come up to you to say, this and this are the efforts we've made in this regard. If it is not perfect, we're improving upon it. The posture of Mr. President from when he took the oath of office to the Nigerian people is that I have undertaken this task. I know the onerous responsibility. I'm committed to it. The box is on my table. All I require from the Nigerian people is patience. This reform we have embarked upon is tough, but it's what we are prepared for. And we are going to put in our best. In the course of the administration, we are going to make sure that we communicate to the Nigerian people what we are doing. And I can readily tell you that the administration has achieved tremendously. If you're looking at it from the point of view of somebody who is neutral.
All right, then, let's get talking about it. Well, the appointment of Mr. Bwala comes with a lot of responsibility, especially at a time that a lot of Nigerians believe that things are really hard and difficult for citizens, and hoping that the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu will come to fruition. Bwala has a difficult job to do, isn't it? And it comes replacing, he's a lawyer, replacing a former journalist who left that office. Daniel Bwala is live with us right here in our Bujasura. Thanks so much indeed. And congratulations might be in order for your new appointment.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
You speak French now?
I do a little.
I understand that you speak Hausa, you speak a bit of a Fufude.
You speak a bit of Igbo.
Igbo.
Yeah, Yoruba.
Is that the reason why the president considered you for the job?
I don't think he's even aware of that.
Oh, really?
I don't think.
Do you think that is important for your job too?
It is important. It is important. I'm learning Spanish and Arabic.
So you don't speak Arabic? You are a Christian Borno man?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Of what extraction?
So I am from Hawul local government in Borno State. If you know General
a minority ethnic group?
It's minority ethnic group in Borno State in the northeast. But we're happy to be Nigerians.
Interesting. Did you lobby for this position?
No, I didn't.
Were you promised a job?
What do you mean?
I mean, did the president promise you that you were going to get a job?
Which job now?
The job that you just got. You are the special advisor to the president on media and communications.
You know, the last time I told you when I met him, I told him I have made up my mind to support his cause, right? And since that January till this November, I'm sure I've appeared in your program, I have been doggedly pursuing that cause. Maybe he saw that and he saw commitment on that, but it's something that the president knows I have loved, and I still love him, and I supported him in the primaries. Whatever is his consideration is what I don't know, but I know that the honor that the president bestowed upon me is what I am very grateful to him about, and I am also very committed to ensuring that I do not disappoint Mr. President and the Nigerian people. So
you have effectively replaced Ajuri Gilali.
Yeah.
That's your office now.
Yes.
Because I understand from the presidency that office has not been used since Ajuri left the villa.
Yeah, when he was there, I think the nomenclature is Special Advisor on Media and Publicity. And now that role is called Special Advisor on Media and Public Communications, State House.
Yeah. So there's one outside of the State House.
Yeah.
Which is Sunday Dare.
Yes, who operates from the Office of the Minister of Information.
So how does that work?
What do you mean?
How does that work? I mean, if there are two different people occupying similar or same position, because the nomenclature are simply the same.
No, it's not. He's on the last catchphrase. No, the last word there is orientation. So public communication and orientation operating from the Office of the Minister of Information. But I don't know the full description, and I do not have the local standard or the authority to describe anybody else's role. You understand?
But your own, well, have you been briefed by the president?
When the president traveled, but I've communicated with the president.
You've spoken with the chief of staff, isn't it? You've had meetings with him too.
The chief of staff, we've been in touch.
No, I mean, assuming office today.
I just assumed today.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you couldn't have assumed office. You would have gotten your tags, access, and
these
a
are
brief of office. Yeah.
I went to the villa, and as soon as they saw me, they said, congratulations. They cleared me. Then I went, we had a meeting with the communications team. And after the meeting, then I proceeded to address the State House Press Corps, which is the primary constituency, my primary constituency. And then that's it for today. So we'll continue the engagement.
So
probably,
what has changed between what Ajuri was doing and what you will be doing?
I don't understand what has changed.
No, because publicity is not part of the nomenclature of your own office.
But public communication makes it even more sharper, communicating with the public.
Okay, that's your... Do you think you are fit for this office in terms of your qualification?
We are saved by grace. Oh, you are talking of whether I have the resume?
You have the requisite experience, understanding, and knowledge of the job.
I have
speaking publicly for a president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I have never spoken for the president of the Federal Republic at any time. This is the first time. But if you are talking of whether I have experience in communication and public communication and media, that is all I've been doing for many years.
Have you been trained for it?
I studied law. A lawyer is both a journalist and a practitioner of law. When you appear in court, what are you doing? Advocating for a case.
But it's a totally different thing when you spin and you handle media and manage media and communication for. That's probably one of the highest role in media and communication in any country. Speaking and managing public relations and spinning for a president.
Which is what I have the capacity for. Yeah.
You have the capacity for it.
Incidentally, when I went to address the press corps, most of the people in that place, we know each other at different capacities where you appear in television program or journalists calling you out for meetings, communication and all that. So it is, you see, it's a privilege, but it's also a role which we have been playing for the president in an unofficial capacity. So now that the privileged position is given to you in that official capacity, it's an honor. What has changed now is that in an unofficial capacity, you can say anything you want. In the official capacity, because whatever you say is deemed as the president saying, you have to be careful to be sure that what you're saying filters on the thinking, the reasoning, and the body language of the president.
So by inference or by virtue of how would I refer to you now? You're a member of the APC because you work for a president.
Since January. Since January.
So, I mean, how does that work? Because this is you who said the human brain is unique and miraculous. It works and functions optically 24 hours a day, 365 days a year until you join APC, then it stopped working. Does that apply to you?
Let me just answer this, and I will not answer any further communication in relation to what you and I have trashed here when I met the president sometime. It's just that in Nigeria, we have sometimes, but since it is not a journalist that say, I won't say lazy journalism, but you see, I have said it, this quote, I have never said it like that. The statement I made, which is similar to this, was on the 24th of December. You were not on duty. Your colleague, I think it's Geoffrey, was the one who was interviewing me. On the eve of Christmas, I remember. And I didn't say this same thing that you're saying. But by the way, let me tell you this. A lot of people don't know politics, and they don't know how politics is being played. When you are for the opposition, what are you supposed to do? To oppose, isn't it? To oppose. If you have the training and discipline where you get engaged in debate, for example, where you say debate for and against. So what we know, and from my discipline of law, is you emphasize your strength and de-emphasize the strength of the other person. You allow him to state his case. And all of these references that people were making were activities that played out when I was in the PDP. It is understandable. The reason why I said I will not talk further on that is because when I met the president in January, you were the first person to interview me after I had met him. It was the hottest interview we've ever had. First of all of the years I know you in interview, you hardly interview and make reference and play out something. But that day, it was like Larry King interviewing somebody. And after that, I went to other TV stations and ensured that because I don't run away from interview. Now, how did they take talk? Now, I will take answer. I've gone to all the places and answered the question. Now, so the president has given us privilege, and there are so much that the president, imagine the visit of the Prime Minister of India, a lot of solid issues to talk about. People are not looking at that. You're looking at Bwala. He said this before against the president. Now, let's assume that it is malaria. Is it not the president that should take the medicine? Why are you taking the medicine for him? When I met him, I told you here on your show in January, when I was explaining why I took positions that I took, but I told him I never went personal. I guess you don't even have to worry. I understand this is politics. The only thing the president then was worried was that when I left, I didn't meet with him before leaving. That's the only thing, not what I said. And he told me something. He said, if you look around me now, most of the people that I would meet today were once against me and even, very deep against me. But in life, my mother, this is his word, my mother taught me that if a king is going to be fighting with people, you will now become a lonely king without people. And so I have learned that in life, and I don't hold it against me.
So you are 100% loyal to the president?
100%.
Well, you were formerly, you said that you were 100% loyal to Atiku.
When I was with Atiku, I was 100. So that I'm like a pit bull, right? When you are committed to someone, you give 100. So I cannot say when I was working for Atiku, I was 90% for Atiku and 10% for Asiwaju. But then what it means that I can't be trusted by both Atiku and Asiwaju. Well, I'm Tinubu, the president.
But your loyalty shifted as soon as your perception of things shifted.
As soon as the president
won.
Even when he won, I was in PDP actually, up to the judgment of the Supreme Court. So that question of who won, who didn't won was settled. The next thing that everybody was confronted with after that time was governance. And if you recall, I want to refresh your memory, on the 1st, I think, of January, the president gave a speech. And in that speech, he called on all Nigerians from all divide to come together, let us build on governance. So when I got the privilege of being invited by the president to meet him, which many people have sought for and never had, and I count it as a privilege of a lifetime. He's a father, I've been with him before. And he said, I want you to join this idea of governance and the rest. I saw it as a rare opportunity. And I grabbed it with joy. And from then, I gave him my 100% commitment. And Seun, you have been around from that January when I made that decision for the president till today. Was there any moment in which I was quiet, silent, redundant? It has always been 100. That's my life. If I believe in a cause, I give 100.
So you are now focused on speaking for President Tinubu, whom you say now you have 100% loyalty in.
100.
But I mean, you believe that the president can do the job?
I believe the president has a good intention for Nigeria. I believe the president has demonstrated, intrinsic, very strong capacity in facing the problem. You see, problem can be seen by everyone. The capacity to face the problem headlong is something that can only be defined by people who have character. I give you an example. What has been the subject of discussion up till today, after almost 2 years, was the decision the president took. You remember those economic policy decisions. These policy decisions since 1999 were discussed in every administration would plan to do it. You remember, sometimes there will be protests against it. Nobody summoned the courage to do that. When the president came with no money in government, he felt that if we don't take this decision, we're going to be in problem. He took it. So that kind of courage, and even the courage the president exercised in appointing me against all odds. These are some of the things you look at in someone and say, if he's convinced in a cause, he will give himself to it. So a lot to learn from that. And after that decision that he has made with respect to economic reform, what is his disposition? From that time till today, I urge the Nigerian people to be patient. Give me time, we will work this out. That is presidential. And at this time, I wonder how in the midst of this cacophony in the country, where somebody will not feel the need to play his part in ensuring that we save Nigeria from decadence. So
the question I'm asking now is whether or not you believe in the presidency of today, because I mean, and that's why I started my conversation with you, asking that you are a Christian minority from Borno State.
Yes, sir.
And you once said the reason why you stopped believing or supporting Bola Tinubu is because of the Muslim ticket.
Yeah.
And as your philosophy about the Muslim ticket, because nothing seems to have changed. Has it changed now?
Are you having what we call Father Time. You have asked me this question before. We trashed it here.
No, we need to trash it because you have now taken up the responsibility to officially speak for the president.
So for your training.
And for the, I mean, I can speak for what my training and for what my industry deserve and the Nigerian people deserve. It would be at the service to the average Nigerian person if you are not able to clear when you are in now your official capacity. At Daniel Bwala, we had a conversation about your ideology and philosophy to wanting to support Bola Tinubu now. But now that you are taking an official responsibility, you have to also clear the air and lift off the burden that you have placed upon yourself.
What kind of...
and now the question, I mean, you have said that the reason why you stopped supporting President Tinubu is because of the Muslim ticket.
And when I made a decision to support him and you asked me the question, which I have cleared.
So now so you can now work with a Muslim man that took a Muslim
When
ticket.
I made a decision to support him, which I have been supporting him from January till this time, what was I doing? The only difference between then and now is the official tag.
You can be supporting someone, but working with them is another kettle of fish.
I've never believed that if you have the capacity to support someone, you will not see the need to support.
You told me on our last interview at that time that you have a love and affection for Bola Tinubu as a person, but you disbelieve in the stand of the APC of the Muslim ticket. So the question is that it's still the Muslim ticket. Your man from Kashim Shettima, who is the VP, is from Borno State. President Bola Tinubu is a Muslim, and they've not denounced their religion. Have you denounced yours?
You know why I'm smiling? This is what I do for a living as a lawyer, where we cross-examine people. You change style, but you ask the same question which you have asked me in January and I've answered. So my reply to this will be asked and answered.
No, it has not been answered as of this moment.
Then recall it on your TV whether I have answered or not.
No, the question is that we are in the moment. Your status at the time and now are totally different.
So my response
is... Do you still believe that a man, a vice president and a president who are both Muslim, of the same religion, have the moral standing to run a country?
I adopt what I said before as my argument and I rely on it.
Are you running away or dodging away from answering the question?
No, you see, you have the infrastructure, you have TV, you have... The same way you use that time in recalling past, recall that question you asked and how I answered it. I'm not prepared to give energy to those things that would distract us from what the president has asked us to do. Let me tell you, it's not about Bwala, it's not about people. The minute I start answering questions that were asked and answered, and then it creates chains of question, then I defeat the very purpose of my appointment. I am now talking about myself instead of talking about the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
That is if these questions are being reinforced over and over again. But this is our first conversation since you assumed office.
Yes.
And which is today.
Yes.
And I'm asking, because you are in your official capacity, can Nigerians believe you that this Daniel Bwala and what he said some months ago during the campaign, can they believe you when you speak for the president?
If you ask this question 100 times till tomorrow morning, my answer will be the same.
But what about those who think that you don't have integrity?
It is their right.
But do you have integrity?
It is up to you.
No, it's not up to me. You are the one that asked you are in the chair, Mr. Bwala. Do you have the integrity to speak for a president whom you heavily criticize and that is not fit for office based on his religious standing on a Muslim ticket?
Asked and answered.
You have not answered it.
No, I've answered it. You've asked me before.
You know, the reason why that is different is now you are a Nigerian public officer.
It doesn't change.
And you speak to the Nigerian people right now. It's different from you as a private citizen. You have the onus to be able to speak. The onus on you to be able to tell Nigerians truthfully that this is what has changed about you. Is this the same Daniel Bwala that worked with Atiku Abubakar?
If I took mango before I became a spokesman, the nutritional value I get from the mango does not change because now I'm a spokesman. Asked and answered.
So you don't want to talk about that?
Anything that I have answered before, I don't want to regurgitate on that.
Even when you said that even if you give Bola Tinubu 30 years, nothing will change.
Asked and answered.
You're dodging away from the question.
I'm not dodging away. You've asked before, I have answered.
Are you worried about those who think that it is unfair for someone like you who heavily criticize and they fought you on television and radio, like just to take on Okwasa, And I could play to you some tapes of what you said during the campaign.
So you have those tapes, but you don't have the tape of the previous question you asked me, which I've answered.
Why would I play a tape of you when you are right here and you can answer the same question?
But why are you going to play this one that I said before?
Because you are now the special advisor.
What is good for the goose is good for the gander.
No, I'm a professional in this job.
I'm a professional in responding.
You are a lawyer.
And that makes it even stronger.
So the question here is that, Mr. Daniel Bwala, how are you able to speak to the fact that there are some those who have a very difficult time believing and agreeing that you've gotten that job instead of them, and they were the supporters that saw Bola Tinubu win that election? What would you say to them tonight?
That's an opinion. They express their opinion. I can understand their feelings. I can understand their pain. However, the president of the Federal Republic decide who he wants to work with. But more than that, if you trust the judgment of the president to govern Nigeria, if you're progressive, you trust that this president is exercising good judgment in policy decisions, is exercising good judgment in governing, you should respect his judgment in choosing who he works with. I'm talking about if you're progressive. You may have a genuine reason why you think you are not taken. I am not going to sit here to say somebody doesn't have a reason why he has not been taken. But Bwala is not the reason why you are not taken. There is this thing we call transferred aggression. Do you know that not long ago, the wife of late Odumegwu Ojukwu was appointed? Was she in APC? Certainly no. You remember when Bosun Tujani was appointed? Was he in APC? No. So you see, the president, in my view, because what I did was I knew what the president's philosophy was. That's my understanding from my discipline of training, where they said, if you're appearing in the court, study the demeanor of the judge, study the mind of the judge, and prepare your case on the basis of that. From President Bola Tinubu, even when he was a governor, he was operating on the philosophy outlined in that book on Abraham Lincoln. If you read that book, for those of the people who have not read, I will encourage them to read. When Abraham Lincoln won the presidency, he ceased to look at the political party from where he's coming from because it is the American society. But he was also faced with so many problems. I said it the last time I was here. There was the, the economic sabotage, the printing and the minting of the American money illegally. There was slave trade. There was fighting over supremacy. Federal government was not able to galvanize them. And so when he looked at it, and all of them had their respective leaders and sentiment, he felt and he came up with this philosophy: you can only fight one war at a time. You can't fight all. So what he did was, let me galvanize everybody together, national consensus, and let's hit the ground running. Now, I am not the only subject of the decision of the president that touched on people probably outside APC and the rest. Remember, Mr. Seun, you have practically interviewed me for 8 years before the election, consistently defending APC as an APC member. My credential is in your hand. You will call me when I'm driving, I will pull over. I'm doing sports, I will stop over. That is how I defended. So I'm not like a newcomer. I've only been away for like 7 months. But everything is Bwala, Bwala. They have their reasons. Some of them are sponsored. We know those who are sponsoring those things. But like I told you, I have made up my mind. I have refused to put fuel on a distraction, because you can imagine me talking about things that have nothing to do with the policy of the president now as his media aide. That means I am now discussing myself rather than discussing the president. So I leave them to their opinion. They can feed on it. They can build a house on it. But I am committed to focusing on what I am assigned to do, and I prepare to do that with all of my heart.
Before you get comfortable with the fluffy and the luxurious environment of the presidential villa, as an ordinary man, today is your first office. You probably had enjoyed the air conditioning in the
I had air conditioning in my office, in my house,
but that in
my
villa
car
might be a bit different. That's the number one seat in the nation. It might feel different. Now, so the question before you get too carried away by the comfort of the office, and I like you to
people get carried away by that.
Hey, people get carried away.
Can you give me an example?
They forget if they pinch themselves.
An example of somebody that got carried away.
I mean, good. I'm not discussing other people. I'm discussing
to facts.
No,
that's conjecture.
That's not conjecture. I'm telling you that people get carried away by the position they hold. The question is that, are you aware about the plight of the average person in this country,
Acutely aware.
the sufferings of the Nigerian people,
aware.
how things have deteriorated in the past month. Are you aware?
Acutely aware.
Are you in tune with what the conditions of many Nigerians?
Let me tell you, from my constituency, extended family members, for many months, calls for you to support. There are times where we can, we do, where we can, we keep, encouraging them. I am very, very aware, of the suffering of the Nigerian people.
And you think this president can fix things?
He's already fixing it.
But you think that he could not fix it even if you give him 30 years? That's what you said.
Asked and answered.
So you don't think that the president... So why do you speak for a president that you think cannot do the job?
No, I just told you. You just asked, do I think he will do it? I say, yes, acutely aware, and I know he will do it.
But you have said that the president who can, even given 30 years, may not be able to fix it.
Asked and answered.
So you don't believe he can do it?
Asked and answered.
Why do you speak for him then?
I speak for him because, one, I believe in him, and from January when I met him, I committed to supporting his cause, and not just supporting, advocating for it. So not just that I believe him, I was busy, as I've always done, speaking to the Nigerian people. This is what the plan is. Look, a little while we will we'll have this cough, turn up the cough or whatever, the English nomenclature. But because if you look at even the numbers, look at the National Bureau of Statistics. If you look at this inflation, both general inflation and food inflation, you will see sometimes when the inflation goes up, there is a reason for it. Like I told you the other time, if you look at the flood in Borno and Yobe, it affected the food crops of the people, the insecurity in North Central. You remember we just got out of the deeper problem in the Middle Belt. These are not spiritual things. They are fact. There is a cause, there is event. But look at the way we are coming out. You have even did your monologue. I remember one time you were talking about how states have become insolvent, bankrupt, and the rest. But ever since the president took up with the increased allocation arising from this revenue, we are not talking about bankruptcy of state. We are talking about governors should please do their best to administer to the people. That's a marked difference. Now, so we are not suggesting that everything has changed overnight. No, but what we are saying is that we are gradually coming out. You have asked me the last time I was here on Lee Kuan Yew's policy. Yes, when Lee Kuan Yew started, for anybody who cares to study, when Lee Kuan Yew started, at a point that as if they were going to stone him, it was completely terrible. But later, the people got out of the problem. There is no reform that changes overnight. Anybody, it's just like money making. You're into business. Somebody said tomorrow morning you will get it. You know it's a 419. But if you are going to build on trade, there is income, there is expenditure, there is investment, there is patience, there is seed time, there is harvest time. You keep pushing and push it. What federal government and the president's agenda is doing is, because even when you're implementing that, you must do intervention. And the president is doing that. We see in the area of transportation, we see in the provision of fertilizers and seedlings. We have also seen, in the private sector where they are, giving money to support, employment there so people don't go out of jobs. So you can see that everywhere, the effort in terms of the intervention, the president is doing it.
All of these facts that you're talking about, all of these facts you're talking about is because you have now moved closer to him. From a distance, you could not see this illumination.
Well, I've been saying that from January when I made a commitment to follow him.
Until when you've moved closer.
Let me give you this scenario. So I'm a born-again Christian. Before I became born again, I didn't want any preaching about God. I didn't believe in God. I wanted to live my life based on my intuition. When I gave my life to Christ and I made a decision to follow him, it became incumbent on me to study more of God and talk about more of God to the people. So when you translate it into politics, when you make a decision, this is what we talk about, power of decision. If I decide that, Seun, I'm going to be your friend, that means I'm going to make effort to ensure that the relationship is strengthened. When I made a decision to support him from January, I have never had a day in which I wasn't actively working for him. And that buttressed the point. For all these years, 11 months I was working, was I talking about even appointment? You see, the president, they said, and now you can see evidence, that he knows how to identify talent. And when it comes to identification of talent, the president does not look at primordial sentiment. He's guided by his intuition. If you trust the president's decision-making, you must trust his decision on who he works with.
No, one of the problems that has emanated here, which you would have had a golden opportunity to change the narrative, is there are those who believe that you are double-faced.
It's their opinion.
Today you believe in something, tomorrow you believe. And you need to be able to convince them, because you'll be speaking for the number one citizen
I don't
in
need
the
to
country.
convince them.
You need to, because you are going to be convincing them about the philosophy, the ideology, and the performance of the Bola Tinubu government. If you are not believable, let me tell you, let me give you a bit of a schooling.
Go ahead.
Mr. Bwala.
No. I'm not
just a moment. Listen.
Schooling.
You need to hear from the expert.
But
now, the question is that
a concept of schooling.
Just remember, apologies if you feel offended.
No,
it's not an offense anyway. But the question is that one of the first things to do is to have a personality that is believable before you can convince people to buy a product. So in public relations, that is very key. Believability. So the question is that how much of effort are you making to ensure that you are first believed before you can sell President Tinubu to the nation?
Let me answer. I have been believed by tremendous number of Nigerians. In fact, ever once the idea of the appointment was molded, I have been inundated by calls, listen, even from Labour Party, who said they disagree with us on policy, they disagree, but they think that if this guy carry his gift to put it to work in Asiwaju's government, it will help. Belief is opinion of people. You don't have power to change it. What you have power to is to speak. The man who listens forms opinion. Let me ask you, do you think everybody believes in you? As a journalist, do you think all journalists believe in you? Has that deterred you from doing what you're doing? So this is where you separate between focus and distraction.
So you're focused?
100%.
So you're born again Daniel Bwala?
Born again from where to where?
From Atiku to Tinubu.
I can't recall anything called born again from
born again
politics.
Meaning that you have moved from your old ways, and now you have seen the light.
Oh, that's what it means?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad for that.
I thought you said that.
That's the schooling.
I thought you,
that's schooling.
That's another spiritual schooling that I'm giving you.
Oh, you're bringing it to politics, right?
Yeah, so you are a member of...
I need to pay you. Are you one of those prophets that ask for offering?
No, I don't.
You said you just gave me schooling.
I've given you free schooling, but yet you are not appreciating it.
No. You have been running around what we call going around the same cycle. You know what they call roundabout. But because I have...
But you found a meaning to it in law, so you should understand better. So yes. that works for you, isn't it? If you understand what we're trying to do here, is that I'm asking the same question in different ways. That you have an ideology and has changed, what has changed? That's the question.
Asked and answered.
All right, we'll take a break, everyone. But when we come back, my friend Daniel Bwala, who is not yielding into answering a question about his personality, maybe he'll be able to speak more about President Bola Tinubu and the Tinubu administration when we return from this break, everyone. Join us again. So much, everyone, for staying with us. Daniel Bwala, who's just assumed the position of the special advisor to the president on media and communications, has been speaking with us. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you.
So your cabinet is a cabinet position that you have earned.
Oh, thank you. I don't know. I just know that I'm asked to do a thing and I'm doing it happily.
So you are going to be the boss to Bayo Onanuga?
No.
Who is leading the president's comms?
Bayo Onanuga is an elder statesman. He is a very brilliant journalist who has had his records. And we are happy he's leading us as a leader. So he's a leader of President's Com. I'm happy for him to lead. I've not been told, but I'm happy for him to lead because he's an elder and we respect him. And he has his own record. He has served Nigeria well. He has a proven record as a journalist. I mean, I can never be drawn into any situation where I will rub shoulder with the man. Yeah, I drove my car for him, yeah. So your job is well cut out in your JD. My own is, if you say, go and carry that table, I just go and do, that's my work. It's not about title. You know, look at Nigeria, Seun. Look at the president and look at the way he's focused on the job. Since he took the oath of office till today, has president ever had a press briefing in which he's fighting anybody or when he's reacting or like somebody who doesn't have emotion? And you know the way the opposition, there's no name he has not been called. So what's the difference between your job and that of Bayo Onanuga? I'm not here to define anybody else's role. But don't you know your own JD? My role, I just told you, special advisor on media and public communication. Now, I don't know whether you have a problem with the media or with the public communication. You see what I'm doing here?
I don't have a problem with any. I'm just asking for
But you know what I'm doing now?
Clarifications.
But you know what I'm doing now? I'm doing my job. If you need clarification, you can ask Bayo or you can ask the administrative in Villa. I'm not looking at administration. I'm looking at executing the mandate of the president.
Let's talk about the president, Bola Tinubu. What did he tell you exactly to do for him? And I'm very sure that he knows that you are in tune with what is happening in the nation. What is his mind telling him? Because now officially you're speaking for him.
That's right.
As the president's spokesperson, what is the mindset? What does he want to achieve as the president of Nigeria?
He wants to achieve a legacy. What is the legacy? He wants to be a consequential president. That is, a president who came at a time when something has to be taken, even though it is unpopular. And when you take that step, there will be insult, there will be problem, and nobody even knows what will happen later because it's still like an uncharted territory. Remember Buhari when he wanted to do it? The National Assembly, then leadership went to him, and then he pushed it to another day. Jonathan wanted to do, all of them wanted to do it before. Great statement. But they saw the danger because if you implement that, we are not a manufacturing country, so there's going to be a problem. Our reliance is on oil. There are quite a number of dynamics. So my understanding of the mindset of President Tinubu, one is to get us out of this quagmire. And he has brilliantly, stated out his policy directive, and the implementation has started already. He's been commended by even international body on economics, local people on economics. But the poor man on the street, because he doesn't know the dynamics of economic.
But the global bodies that you talked about, recently IMF has said that some of this policy is not working. This is just a few days ago.
So let me tell you,
it's not bearing fruit yet.
But what did they say? In the same statement, I suggest whoever is talking to go and study. They said the policy at least requires how many? 15 years or more. Yeah, it is not going to be overnight. Let me give you an example, Mr. Seun. Probably you are in a house, a battered house, and rain fell, there's a crack, the house is about to get destroyed. And you now feel it, when it gets destroyed, when it falls down, when it collapses, it will kill everybody. Then you decided, we have to take some measures. We're going to move out of this house. We're going to have a makeshift house, and then we're going to construct a new house. For the period that you're going to be in the makeshift house, you may not be enjoying that AC in that house. You may not be enjoying certain privilege you've been enjoying in that house. But you cannot even continue in that house because the walls are collapsing. But you needed to take that decision. The entire period of the movement from there to here so you can have a good house will create a lot of inconveniences. Now, the IMF, something you say, I studied a bit about their policy. That is what is called strong country ownership. Now, in the practice of law, which you must know, for every general rule, there is an exception. Now, strong country ownership is an exception to the rule in IMF. And what that means is that at every given time, you are permitted, even in implementing that, to tinker with certain policies to meet with your local demands. Now, so how you tinker with policies in Nigeria might be different from Rwanda, might be different from Kenya, depending on the dynamics, the demography, the economy, the circumstances. All of these things are things we are navigating. The good thing is our worst days are behind us, Seun. Our worst days are behind us.
And Nigerians are hoping that not only for the decision makers who think that they are turning the curve in what they seem as the dark days of how the policies are panning out, but also for the fact that Nigerians who are unable to feed are able to feed now or later in the year or as soon as possible. But the question is the perception, some of the issues are around the president. For example, there are stories about the CIA and how the president is being seen or perceived in some climes or in some places. Does that concern the president, how he's perceived in some climes? And some of which you have also criticized. You've been critical about the president and his past. For those who are, I'm careful about social media conversations because not everything you can take on. But the question is that as the spinner and as a public relations person for the president, how do you explain some of this perception about the man you speak for?
So I have a thing or two in terms of experience on intelligence. I have offered consultancy service to intelligence platforms. I have also consulted for the United States Institute of Peace. When it comes to intelligence and counterintelligence and foreign intelligence, it is a game of the mind. It's a game of mastery. Sometimes that also is reflected in those mediums by which the perception of the public is managed, such as creating a narrative, dropping a narrative, sparking a narrative, pointing a pointer, all kinds of things. Now, the thing about CIA is that whenever a perception is going to be created by those who mastermind it, they can say anything. Seun, I can look at you. I know you have international connection with international journalists and organizations in journalism. There are some people in the international journalism realm that acts as agent of foreign government. But does that make you an agent of foreign government? No. In this our Borno, most of these NGOs you see that go there, say they are doing NGO, they are being funded by this. Some of them are primary collectors of intelligence for foreign government. But does that mean every NGO is bad? So that thing is a created distraction to give the okay, if you said the president is an agent of the NIA, has the president not taken decision?
They said of the CIA, not the NIA.
Sorry?
They said of the CIA, not of the NIA.
The CIA, sorry. Has he not taken decision that the American government didn't favor at the beginning? You remember when that American citizen was arrested? You remember that American citizen? They made a request for him to be released, he refused. If you're an agent of CIA, you turn him over. You see, in Africa, we must open our eyes.
But the president has yielded to the call of the United States in releasing the man that was in custody.
After how many years in custody? And you don't know what the government of Nigeria may have extracted from him in terms of intelligence that is useful to Nigeria. When you don't suck orange, finish.
The reason why I'm asking you this question is whether or not the interest of Nigerians is number one, as against the interest of foreign Bretton Woods institutions, of foreign nations, and thinking that maybe the president is interested in serving those interests. First and foremost, they say the president is yielding to the call of IMF and the World Bank and the Bretton Woods institutions. Now they're saying that the president has the interest, allegedly has the interest of other nations above the interests of Nigeria. And you speak for him.
That is,
how do you defend that?
I don't believe in what they said, and I know what narrative and counter-narrative it is and what they try to achieve. But the president has demonstrated in leadership through his decisions and policies that the national interest of Nigeria is uppermost in his mind. National interest is national security, right? But then there is what we call international diplomacy, and there's what we call cooperation along shared values. So if, for example, we have a shared value in the area of deepening democracy between Nigeria and the United States. So we have an area of interest. Both of us are interested. Every of these counterparts will leverage on what they have advantage over to also ask for what they can get. It's called international cooperation on the basis of a shared value or shared interest. We might be interested in something that is not already here. So, and America does that. You understand? If you see them in Ukraine, for example, will you say Zelensky is controlling Biden? See the kind of money that Biden keeps sending there? But Zelensky's sustenance protects the interests of not just America, but NATO.
So the question is, how is the presidency able to clear the name of the president based on president's past and some imagined information, such that the belief and the trust of the Nigerian people are upheld in the man that is leading them, that it does not have the interests of other nations above the interests of Nigeria?
A lot of Nigerians have their deepest trust in the president. A lot of Nigerians
But the presidency has not officially come to dismantle whatever those emerging information from those countries.
This is my understanding of response and counter-response. If your eye is on the ball, you have to be careful about how you get distracted in responding to trivial things. You only respond to what is necessary for the purposes of responding. Because distraction is anything. It can be in 1 minute that takes your mind off of the focus. And then before you know, the narrative now becomes not what you are trying to do, but what people are saying.
What does
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu need, or the president need to do to tell the Nigerians that the president is not a CIA agent? I mean, it's a gibberish kind of talk. Even the Nigerian people know. It is those people who are spinning that, you understand, that are pushing that.
What is President Tinubu's main agenda in Brazil? What does he hope to achieve?
Good. So the COP29 is a focus, coming out of the resolution that they made, is a focus on what they call international reform in governance. And now the focus, because every time they meet, there is a focus. So this year, the focus is around 1, poverty, hunger, and then climate change. These 3 things that they are mentioning, have you not been seeing the president implementing it in Nigeria? So he's on course. Now, going there is to deepening on that, but then to push further the argument for a permanent seat for Africa, because Africa is an uninvited member of the G20. So the focus of the president is to go and engage in the processes that will lead to dealing with hunger, dealing with poverty. If you bring it to Nigeria, you see some of the agricultural policy that is geared towards that. With respect to climate change, of course, you know how the president is introducing CNG boards. There's lots of policies that are geared towards that. So
but what about
this is what the president hopes to achieve.
What about a seat at the table?
That is what is advocating
Nigeria, although we are faltering in terms of, economy-wise, our GDP has dropped from about first and second to the number 4 on GDP economy size on the continent. And in asking for a seat and being a leader on the continent, you must be able to also show cause why you need to lead the continent on the global stage. What is President Tinubu telling the world leaders about Nigeria as a country leading the continent on the global stage?
President Tinubu is telling the world leaders that Nigeria is gladly has adopted and is implementing some of the policies that is being canvassed by international bodies and countries ahead of what COP29 is looking at, which is dealing with hunger, like I talked about. Ahead of that, the president is a leader in our West African sub-region, of course, which you know. And number 3, being the largest black population, and I think second largest economy in Africa, we have a say. Fourth largest economy in Africa, we have a say. And then we have what they call a population of Nigeria around the world that are productive. What they are trying to do in Nigeria is to convert that of the Nigerian people. If you go to America, just in the last 3 months, America, UK, and the rest, we see people coming out, judges, these are now the next prime minister of England is going to be a Nigerian. So Nigeria is not something you can look and turn your back from. Nigeria plays a pivotal role, and the president is representing that agenda.
It's a huge thing for the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, to visit Nigeria. But what would you say is the greatest benefit from that conversation?
Good. If you remember, when the leadership of that COP29 was given to India, he held it for that period. What was his major role? He really advocated for African continent. He really advocated. That's number 1. Then number 2, Indian population and Indian business interests in Nigeria far outweigh every other business interest. Then you look at the population of Indians in Nigeria, and then you look at our shared value in the area of healthcare, in the area of agriculture, and the rest. So having fought, tenaciously for the African continent, and now gladly we're a part of G20, he has now come to deepen that relationship. He's coming to Africa, and the first place to come is Nigeria. And the last time an Indian prime minister came to Nigeria was when? A long time ago. This is one of the biggest, and the reason he could come is because President Bola Tinubu represents the courage for change.
So what's the biggest takeaway from that? Did they agree on anything? Is India putting some funds? Are there understanding and agreement in terms of trade and commerce for Nigeria?
Now, when the details are farmed out, it is going to be published, right? But if you are saying what is the benefit of his visit, of course, the Indian community have committed, especially those who are in industry, those who are in businesses, to bring increased funds to deepen their business interests in Nigeria. And they could not have been doing it if they are not making profit.
We need to close in 30 seconds. And it's about Obasanjo. Sunday Dare, your colleague, has come out heavily attacking former president because he says that there are deep-rooted corruption issues in this government. But they've said that Obasanjo led a messy government.
Is it in doubt?
Is that the position of this government?
When President Obasanjo, I don't subscribe to attacking an elder statesman, and that is not what Sunday Dare did. So kudos to Sunday Dare. Sunday Dare did what we call stating the facts for the record so that the Nigerian people can judge. You see, when you come to say, better if you have not held anything, but when you have governed before and you say this country is corrupt, you have, this leader is corrupt, you have to be sure that when you govern, there was this. Most of these corruption-related things in all fabrics of the society started when? During his time.
Daniel Bwala, thank you so much. I wish you the very best in your endeavor working with the president.
And not to be, what did you call that? Go not to be carried away.
That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Seun Okinbaloye. God bless Nigeria.